That number in your 401(a) account right now, it's not real. I don't mean your broker is lying to you. I mean the actual dollar amount you're looking at, after taxes, after Medicare surcharges, after required withdrawals force your hand. It could be 30 or even 40% less when it actually hits your bank account. I'm Tony, and I want to walk you through this age by age, what your balance actually buys you in retirement, and what you can still do about it before the window closes. First, let's talk about why most people are comparing themselves to the wrong number. You've probably seen those headlines. The average 401(a) for people in their late 50s is around $270, so zero. For people in their 60s, the average pushes into the $500,000. If you're below those numbers, you feel behind. Here's why those averages are misleading. They're being pulled up by a small group of very large accounts. One person with $2 million moves the average for a lot of people with $80,000. The number that actually tells you where a typical person stands is the median. And for people 55 to 64, the median is in the mid-90,000s. For people in their 60s, it's under $200,000. So if you've got $150,000, $180,000, even $220,000 right now, you're not trailing the pack. You are the pack. That's where most people actually are. That should take some pressure off. But here's what it doesn't change. Where most people are isn't where most people need to be. And the size of your balance is only part of the story. What that balance actually delivers after taxes is a completely different conversation, and it's the one most retirement videos never get to. So let me show you what I mean. If you have $400 in a pre-tax 401(a), which is how most people have it, every dollar you pull out in retirement gets taxed as ordinary income. You take out $50,000, you're in the 22% bracket, you're actually living on $39,000. If your required distributions push you into the 24% bracket, you lose more. But that's just the federal income tax layer. Here's where it starts to pile on. If your total income crosses $103,000 as a single filer, or $206,000 as a married couple, Medicare kicks in a surcharge on top of your regular Part B premium. Those are the 2026 IRMAA thresholds. The extra cost can run from $1,000 to over $3,000 more per year, depending on how far past the line you go. And then there's Social Security. Once your income hits a certain point, up to 85% of your Social Security benefit becomes taxable. So your required minimum distribution bumps up your income, which taxes more of your Social Security, which bumps your income up further. It feeds itself. One big pre-tax account can quietly set off all three of these at the same time. That's how $400,000 on paper ends up working like $250,000 in your pocket. And once you understand the mechanics, you can actually do something about it. Before we get into the age-by-age piece, here's the scoreboard most major retirement firms use. By 67, they want you to have roughly 10 times your income saved. That assumes saving about 15% a year, including your employer's match, starting around 25. Broken down by age, roughly 6 times your salary by 50, 7 times by 55, 8 times by 60, and 10 times by 67. If you're 60 and making $100,000, that rule puts the target at $800,000. If you're at $200,000 or $300,000, you're not alone, but staying on the same path isn't a plan. Real quick, if this is useful to you, hit subscribe. I put these videos out specifically for people in their 50s and 60s who want honest retirement information. No products to sell, no sugarcoating. Let's start with your 50s. Take Susan. She's 57, makes $110,000, and has $300,000 in her 401(a). She's been contributing for years consistently, but it's all pre-tax. No Roth, no taxable brokerage, just one bucket, and the government has a claim on every dollar in it. If Susan keeps going exactly the way she's going, her balance will be bigger at 65. But every dollar she pulls is taxable, and if those withdrawals push her over the RMA threshold, Medicare takes a bigger bite too. Here's what changes when she adjusts her approach over the next 8 years. She splits contributions, some pre-tax, some Roth. She opens a small taxable brokerage on the side. At 65, her total balance lands around $520,000. But here's the number that matters more than that. $180,000 of it is sitting in Roth. Tax-free. No required distributions attached to it. When her mandatory withdrawals start, she picks which bucket to pull from. She manages her own taxable income. She stays under the IRMAA line. Her Social Security barely gets touched. Same person, same income, same years of working. completely different retirement because the money is sitting in different kinds of accounts. This is what people mean when they talk about the three-bucket strategy, and it's worth understanding because it's the whole game. Bucket 1 is your pre-tax 401(a). The government is your silent partner on every dollar you settle up when you withdraw. Bucket 2 is your Roth 401(a) or Roth IRA. Tax already paid. Withdrawals come out free, and here's the part that matters. It doesn't count toward your IRMAA threshold. Bucket 3 is a taxable brokerage, the most flexible of the three, capital gains rates instead of ordinary income rates, no forced distributions. In 2026, once you're 50 or older, you can put up to $32,500 of your own money into your 401(a). That includes the catch-up contribution. If you're behind the 6 to 7 times salary target by your mid-50s, those extra dollars are your biggest lever right now. Try to get your total savings rate, your contribution plus whatever your employer adds, up to 15%. Now let's get into your 60s, because this is where the leverage is biggest. The average 401(n) for people in their 60s is in the upper $500,000, but the median is still under $200,000. Half the people your age have less than that. At this stage, how your money is structured for taxes matters just as much as the total number. Here's something a lot of people in their early 60s never find out until it's over. Between ages 60 and 63, there's a super catch-up window. You can push your total employee contribution up into the mid-30,000s range during those 4 years. After 63, that window closes. Permanently. You don't get another shot at it. Most people inside this window right now are contributing exactly what they've always contributed. They don't know it exists, so they leave a significant amount of tax advantage space on the table every single year without realizing it. If you're in that range, maximize what you can. Put a real chunk of it into Roth and get a tax-savvy planner on the calendar to start mapping your conversion timeline. Because in your 60s, you stop just stacking money. You start thinking about how every dollar is going to behave when you actually need it. Now, here's something most people find out the hard way. From their accountant in January, after the first smaller paycheck has already hit. I'd rather you hear it now. Under the SECure 2.0 Act, if you earn over roughly $150,000, your catch-up contributions, the extra dollars above the standard limit, may have to go into a Roth account instead of pre-tax. Your paycheck will feel a little lighter because you lose that upfront tax deduction on the catch-up piece. A lot of people see the smaller check and assume something went wrong. Nothing went wrong. You're paying the tax now instead of later. For most people in their late 50s and early 60s, that's actually a reasonable trade. You're building tax-free money right before required distributions start driving your taxable income up anyway. But you need to know it's coming so you're not caught off guard. Sit with this question. Do you want a slightly smaller paycheck today or a higher tax bill every year in your 70s? No one-size-fits-all answer. But knowing the trade-off lets you make the right call for your situation instead of reacting to it. Let's talk about your 70s, because if you arrive without a plan, it can be a gut punch. At some point between 73 and 75, depending on when you were born, the IRS starts requiring you to pull money out of your pre-tax retirement accounts whether you want to or not. Required minimum distributions. What they are, at the core, is the government collecting on decades of deferred taxes. Their turn is finally up. If you put everything into pre-tax accounts through your 50s and 60s, here's what that looks like. The distribution gets added to your income. That taxes more of your Social Security. That pushes you past the IRMAA line. Medicare costs go up, and you're back in the same spot the next year because the RMD doesn't stop. I've talked to people who did everything right for 35, 40 years, saved every month, never missed a contribution. And they still sat across from their accountant at 73, completely blindsided by what their 401(a) was costing them every year. That's not a failure of discipline. That's what happens when nobody handed them this information while there was still time to act on it. So here's the part most people never figure out on their own. When you retire, there's usually a gap. 4 years, sometimes 6 or 7, between your last paycheck and when Social Security starts or required distributions kick in. During those years, your taxable income is lower than it's been since your early 30s. You might be living off savings or a small pension. You're probably in the lowest tax bracket you're going to see for the rest of your life. Most people leave their 401(a) completely untouched during those years because they think they're letting it grow. But that window is the best time to move pre-tax money into Roth. at the lowest tax rate you're ever going to pay again. You're not just letting it grow, you're converting it into a form the government cannot force you to pull out later. That's the move, and the sooner you know about it, the more of that window you get to actually use. Okay, before I give you the checklist, I want to say something directly. This is not about hitting a perfect number. There is no magic balance that means you've won. If you're 62 with $200,000, you haven't failed. You are starting from where you are, with the years you have and the tools available right now. That is enough to work with, if you know what to do with it. Here's what to do. If you're 55 to 59, pull up every retirement account you have. 401, NHS, IRAs, anything from old jobs. Add them up. Compare that total to 6 to 8 times your income. If you're short, raise your contribution by 1 or 2% this year. Start splitting new money between pre-tax and Roth. And if you don't have a Roth IRA open yet, open one this week. Even $50 a month starts the 5-year clock. If you're 60 to 63, you are inside the super catch-up window right now. It will not last. Ask HR one question. Does my plan offer a Roth 401 ENG option? If it does, put your catch-up dollars there and get a real tax conversation scheduled. Not just about contributions, but about your full Roth conversion timeline before this window closes at 64. If you're 64 to early 70s, map out your income for the next 5 years before RMDs start. Find your IRMAA threshold. Figure out if there's room to move pre-tax dollars into Roth while your income is still low. And factor Social Security timing into that picture as a tax strategy, not just a monthly benefit question. If you're already in your 70s, the job now is keeping more of what you have. Look into qualified charitable distributions. If you're 70 and a half or older, you can donate directly from your IRA to a qualified charity up to $105,000 a year, and it counts toward your required distribution without ever hitting your taxable income. Most people never hear about this. It's one of the most effective moves available at this stage. So let me leave you with this. Your 401 balance is a starting point, not a verdict. The guideline, 10 times your income by 67, saving 15% a year, is a compass reading, not a grade. You don't pass or fail retirement. For those of you 55 and older, the game isn't catching up to some average. It's taking what you've built and turning it into income you can actually keep. Income that doesn't get quietly cut by taxes and Medicare surcharges you didn't see coming. If this video helped you think about your situation differently, 3 things. Hit like, it helps YouTube get this in front of more people who need it. Subscribe, I cover this specifically for people in their 50s, 60s and 70s, and there's a lot more ground to cover. And share it with one person who's been quietly stressed about retirement. You might be doing them a bigger favor than you realize. I'm Tony. Retirement gets built one decision at a time. See you in the next one.